Okay, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Darren Stitt, and I am a husband, father, pastor, and entrepreneur here in the state of Indiana. I'm also a concerned citizen, and one of the things that I'm most concerned about is the right to bear arms here in the state of Indiana. Our founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment into our founding documents because they believed that we had a right endowed to us by God to defend ourselves. This right to defend ourselves includes the right to defend ourselves against other citizens should they try to attack us, and also the right to defend ourselves against tyranny should it rise up in our government. And the idea of this right to bear arms is that we would be ready and able to protect ourselves at any given moment, and that it was a right. It's not something that should be hindered by the government. Well, in the state of Indiana, for however long it's been, we've had this permitting process in place, this tyrannical process that allows the state government to tell us whether or not we're allowed to carry our guns. Now, mind you, this has nothing to do with the purchase of firearms. The purchase of firearms is a completely different process that requires background checks with the federal government and so on and so forth. Instead, in the state of Indiana, we have this whole other process that requires an intrusion in our privacy that we have to go through in order to actually be able to carry our guns, that we have to go through an intrusive process to purchase from the federal government. And so in the state of Indiana, this last year, there was legislation that was proposed and delegated to the Public Policy Committee that would have done away with this tyranny of gun permits. It would have made it so that the Constitution is your right to bear arms without having to get extra permission from the state government. Instead, unfortunately, what happened in the Public Policy Committee is the Public Policy Committee gutted. They stripped out the language in the bill that would have allowed for constitutional carry. And instead, they replaced that language with language that still requires the tyranny of a permit in order for you to carry your gun. Just makes it so that you don't have to pay the government anything to get the permit. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that it continues to be a violation of our Second Amendment rights. And so what we're calling for instead, and what we want instead, is we want constitutional carry. We want to be able to carry our guns here in the state of Indiana without having to worry about getting extra permission from the state government. Now, why did they not pass this legislation? Why did they not send this legislation back to the General Assembly and then on over to the Senate the way that it was? Well, Ben Smaltz is quoted actually in the Indianapolis Star as saying that the problem with this kind of legislation is optics. And that's the deal, that our Republican conservatives in the state of Indiana are more concerned with optics than they are with protecting our rights. And that's what makes me a concerned citizen. Now, there's another problem. Not only do we not have now the right to carry guns the way that our founding fathers intended, recognized by God, not only do we not have that, but now also in a state where there is constitutional carry, the other thing that would be in place is a stricter permitting process when you purchase a stricter permitting process for getting a firearm permit. There would still be a permit in the state of Indiana that you could go through and get, and that permit would allow you to have what's called reciprocity in other states. And with a stricter permitting process, we would be able to get more reciprocity in more states so that citizens in the state of Indiana could go to many, many more places and still continue to carry their gun in other states. But because the Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Public Policy Committee did not pass this legislation, now not only is it that here in Indiana we're not able to carry our firearms without the tyranny of a permit from the government, but on top of that, now we don't have that other permitting process in place that would allow us to carry our firearms in more states across the United States of America. And so this was a double loss for citizens in the state of Indiana. Now, here's the question. Where did all of this take place? It all took place in the Public Policy Committee in the House of Representatives. And the man who runs that committee is a man by the name of Ben Smaltz, a man who is more concerned with optics than he is with your rights and my rights. Now, ask yourself this question. Is this the kind of man that we want in charge of these kinds of decisions? I think the answer to that question is no. So join me May 5th in voting to send Smaltz home.